Hi, you two, it's Miss Addy. Our learning question for maths today asks us, can I divide by 2? Our steps to success say, I can divide by 2 using the sharing strategy, I can divide by 2 using the grouping strategy, and I can record division number sentences using the division symbol. Our star words today say divide, and we've got the division symbol in red. We've also got the words share and group, which we've learnt about on Monday and Tuesday. We've got the phrase equal groups because it's really important that when we divide, we are dividing into equal groups so that it's fair. And we've also got the phrase multiples of 2 because as we're dividing by 2 today, we need to know our multiples of 2. These are numbers we say when we count in twos, and these are part of the 2 times table. So let's remind ourselves what division means. Now, division is separating something into equal parts. When we think of it in maths, this is when we separate amounts into equal parts or into equal groups. And when we divide, we use a special symbol. We use the division symbol. So it's a line with a dot on top and a dot underneath. And we can use other words to describe division. We can think of the words share and share equally, groups of, and repeated subtraction. There are 2 strategies we can use to divide, and we've learnt about those this week. We can divide by sharing, which we learnt about on Monday, and we can divide by grouping, which we learnt about on Tuesday. So let's remind ourselves all about dividing by sharing. This involves having an amount and sharing it equally between a group of people. So when we're thinking about dividing by 2, we're sharing between 2 people. And looking at the picture, that both of the boys have the same amount of apples, so it's fair and equal. And when we share out our amounts, we're then able to write our division number sentence. Here we've got 8 divided by 2 equals 4. And the dividing symbol there means shared between. So we had 8 apples, we shared them between 2 boys, they each got 4. Remember, when we're dividing, we use the largest number at the beginning of our number sentence. This takes us on to our second strategy, our second method, which is dividing by grouping. Now, dividing by sharing and dividing by grouping, they'll give us the same number sentence, they'll give us the same answer, but we're just doing them in slightly different ways. Now, for this question, this was a slightly different question from the last one. We were grouping muffins. So we had 14 muffins at the beginning and we put them into groups. That means we didn't share them. We didn't say one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me, and give them each person one at a time. We put them into groups of 2 until all of the muffins had gone because they were in a group of 2. Then this helps us to make our division's number sentence. So we have 14 divided by 2 equals 7 because we started with 14 muffins. We divided, which means we grouped into groups of 2 because we could only put 2 muffins in a group. Then we counted the number of groups. So that number 7 is the number of groups that we made. Remember, we always start with the largest number in a division number sentence. So these are our 2 methods that we can use when we're dividing. We can divide by sharing or we can divide by grouping. Now, we still write the same number sentences, but we find the answer in a different way. Now, today we are focusing on dividing by 2. Now, before we can think about dividing by 2, we need to remind ourselves of the multiples of 2. Multiples of 2 means the numbers we say when we count in twos. These are part of the 2 times table. So thinking back to our learning from last week, we were learning about multiplication. So these are numbers we said when we counted in twos. Can you remember the special pattern we use when we count in twos? Look at the highlighted numbers on the hundred square. That's right, they all end in either 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. These are even numbers. When we count in twos, we count the even numbers and we skip the odd numbers. This will help us when we're dividing by 2 today. So let's just remind ourselves and count in twos. So can you count with me? 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So I just counted all the even numbers there and I skipped the odd numbers. My numbers ended in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Now, I know we're learning about division today, but it's helpful to know that when we multiply by 2, we're doing something really special. We're doing another special maths trick. Can you remember what that math trick is when we are multiplying by 2, when we are timesing by 2? We are doubling. So when we multiply any number by 2, we're just doubling it. So double 3 is 6. That means we're timesing 3 by 2. Now, when we divide by 2, we're also doing a really special maths trick again. It's not doubling. So multiplication and division, they are opposites. They are inverse operations. And we know that when we multiply, we are doubling. So what's the opposite of doubling? So when we divide by 2, we are halving. I wonder if you know what halving means. So half of 6 is 3. So double 3 was 6. Now half of 6 is 3. When we divide any number by 2, we are halving that number. So looking at the halving map, we've got a part whole. When I look at the whole, I've got a number there. And what I've done is I've halved the amount of counters so that each part has the same amount. I've got 10 in my whole, and I've got 5 and 5 in my parts because half of 10 is 5. So 10 divided by 2 equals 5. Halving is when we split an amount into 2 equal groups. So thinking about dividing today, all we're doing is splitting an amount into 2 equal groups. So here we've got our question today. It asks us 20 divided by 2. So first, we need 20 objects. 20 is at the beginning of my number sentence because it's the largest number. When we divide, we need the largest number at the beginning. Here I've got 20 objects. Let me just double check. I have 20 objects now. You might have seen that because I organized them into an array, rows of tens. So the first method we're going to use is sharing. So we're going to share our objects. Now we're going to share our objects between some people. How many people can you see there? There's 2 people. So we're going to be sharing our 20 sweets between 2 people. So now we're going to divide them by sharing the sweets. Remember, each child needs the same amount, so it's fair and equal. So now we've shared out all the sweets. We need to double check now that they have the same amount, that each amount is equal. How many sweets does the girl have? She has 10 sweets. How many sweets does the boy have? He has 10 sweets. They both have 10 sweets. So 20 divided by 2 will equal 10 because that's the number of sweets that each child has. So our number sentence now says 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Now remember, that's the same as halving. So half of 20 is 10. Now remember, we did this by sharing. I wonder if we can work out the same question, but using our other strategy. We've already had a go at sharing. Can you remember what the other strategy is called? Grouping. We're going to try to work out 20 divided by 2 by grouping. Now remember, the answer will be exactly the same, but our strategy, that is how we do it, our method will be slightly different. So we need 20 objects again. I think we should use our sweets just like we did last time. This time we're grouping the objects, and that's what the division symbol means this time. We are grouping. And this time we're putting them into groups of 2. 1 group of 2, 2 groups of 2, 3 groups of 2, 4 groups of 2, 5 groups of 2, 6 groups of 2, 7 groups of 2, 8 groups of 2, 9 groups, 10 groups of 2. So we have grouped all of the sweets into groups of 2, and we found we have 10 groups. So my answer again is 10. 20 divided by 2 equals 10. This method was grouping. So when we divide by 2, we are halving. So you can think of that with anything, shapes, food, or whatever. It's when we are splitting something into 2 equal parts. And when we divide by 2, we need to use multiples of 2. It's really important that our first number in the number sentence is a multiple of 2. This means we need to choose even numbers to divide. But what would happen if we divided using an odd number instead? Let's try and work this one out. We've got 5 divided by 2. So this time I've chosen an odd number to divide by 2. Do you think it will divide equally? Let's find out. And we're going to have a go at sharing the chocolate bars between the 2 children. Remember, they need an equal amount. Right, this shows us now that each child got 2 chocolate bars, but there is 1 left over. This is called a remainder. This means that we couldn't share 5 equally between 2 people without having something left over. So when we're dividing by 2, to make it an equal amount, we do need an even number. Let's try this time by grouping. So the same thing has happened again. We've got 2 equal groups of 2 and 1 left over. This is called a remainder. So again, we couldn't group the chocolate bars into equal groups of 2 using the odd number 5. So can you remember the 2 strategies we can use to divide? Sharing and grouping. So remember, we'll have the same number sentence, we'll get the same answer, but how we find the answer will be different. So your task for today is I want you to work out this division number sentence. It says 18 divided by 2. Now I'd like you to have a go at working it out using the 2 strategies we have learnt. So could you draw your working out to show 18 divided by 2 through sharing? Then could you draw your working out to show 18 divided by 2 by grouping? And then afterwards, see if you can write the number sentence write the answer and have a think about which was easier. Did you prefer dividing by sharing or did you prefer dividing by grouping? Hope you enjoy your activity.